I'm so sick of synthwave in every second game I play. Banana, danana, banana, danana. And when I look at why it's so popular, it's not even a good reason. Like, Cyberpunk 2077 was a massive failure and everyone was like, yeah, let's wave this neon flag for the next decade. So it's not really a question as to if Turbo Overkill will give me an aneurysm, but will the cause be the tedium of an aesthetic so played out it's going to react to its own React content? Or is it the absolute cocaine-laced, head-splitting, chain-sawing, pant-exploding gameplay? I didn't stutter. Turbo Overkill has pant-exploding gameplay, and it should be on the box if people still bought games in video game stores. So what is Turbo Overkill? Well, to be frank, it's a boomer shooter, and if you said, "Hi Frank," in response to what I just said, then this game is probably age-appropriate for you. Boomer shooters hail from another time, a simpler time in the first-person shooter genre where there were only two questions. 1. How fast is too fast? And once I am now going too fast, can I go faster if I shoot a rocket launcher at my feet? And 2. Which gun will produce enough lead to turn the life forms in this room into burger mints? I mean, it's even in the name. Turbo Overkill. The game reviews itself. There's no hidden message or nuance to it, just bigger gun, bigger boom, better person. But Liv, another Doom clone trying to relive a bygone era? I hear you crying under 30. Well, dear no one asked, I think the question you should ask yourself is why? Why are there so many of these? Because it's badass, that's why. And while millionaires sit in a boardroom trying to figure out how to lower player expectations after spending multi-millions of dollars on their latest hype trailer to advertise the new hero in the battle pass who is Brutus from ancient Rome, except Brutus is a time-traveling half-Asian woman who killed Caesar in a fair wrestling match because he chaired a council of evil men. Some nerd in a basement was performing calculus and had a eureka moment. What if we take a chainsaw and put it inside your leg? Genius! And yeah, social issues are important and they can be well written in a video game, but inappropriate misuse of a chainsaw is up there with kittens in internet culture, so take a seat, loser. In Turbo Overkill, whenever you slide, a chainsaw flips out of your leg like a butterfly knife. So the aim is to zoom across the level like that one 12-year-old with ADHD at the local skate park and shoot everything else you missed along the way. The devs were worried that you might get bored after a whole second passing, so they added a dash just in case the adrenal glands were blocked up or something. Wall running? Check. Grapple? Check. Missile launcher arm? Check. Flip the bird after firing the missile launcher arm? Check, check, and check. So, what's the story? You are Johnny Turbo, and if the name doesn't give away the level at which this plot is operating, then I don't know what to say. This isn't fine dining, this is an all-you-can-eat buffet, and the only selection is burgers and fries. Now, to an unrefined palate, it's going to seem like there isn't a lot to a cheeseburger, and this is just excess, but people of culture are going to know that this is a damn fine burger. Starting with the buns, our story takes place in Paradise, a cyberpunk city that has been corrupted by the rogue AI called Sin. You have been hired by the company responsible for the AI as the muscle to deal with the problem. And if your boner for Shodan is fully erect right now, then yeah, there's quite a bit of homage to System Shock and other shocks in general. Like, look at the upgrade stations and tell me that these don't belong in Rapture, along with the audio pickups in the levels. Johnny himself is a man of 0 words, so our companion AI, Sam, does most of the talking. I just want to take a moment here to congratulate Trigger Happy Interactive for cracking the code on making a likable AI companion. In fact, I'd say that most of the voice acting in this game goes above and beyond, from the exec that's losing their shit over the situation to Ripper's sass. There's a lot to enjoy in the delivery, even if the substance of the plot isn't quite there. And I say that there isn't much substance in the plot because, well, look, you know it, I know it, everyone knows it. This is a story where they paid the artists to storyboard the coolest shit they could think of and then filled in the blanks later. The third episode basically plays out like Terminator, Star Wars, and Starship Troopers, and there's just no way that this is mere coincidence. Now, as a refined individual of exquisite taste, I reveled in the delicate tapestry of the flavors and umami, but this is 90s action movie porn. And if this isn't your thing, then the only thing this game is going to give you is the middle finger. The gameplay is the same thing. I touched on the chainsaw leg and the movement, but going fast doesn't mean anything without some damn big, beautiful guns. These are some of the coolest guns I've played in a video game in my entire life, so let me give you a tour. First up, we have the dual magnums. These do about as much damage as pistols in a John Wick movie, but if you hold down the alt fire, you begin to charge the lock-on mode, and you can do some massive damage followed by a cooldown period. This kind of carries you early game since the lock-on will insta-gib most enemies early on. Later, you can purchase an upgrade that if you fire enough bullets with your pistol, it charges up and turns into another gun called the insta-gibber. This is arguably the most powerful gun in the game when it's in this state. The catch is that if you miss a shot, you lose the transformation and you have to start all over again. The Waster shotgun is the pump action workhorse shotgun that is pretty much filler damage while you're cycling through your arsenal. It does have one unique property though. Its alt fire loads up to 3 rounds and then shoots out an electrical blast that will stun most enemies. It's also probably the best gun for dealing with shields since it makes shields explode, usually killing the bearer. The dual oozes are your bread and butter damage. They do a lot of work up close, and the reason why the damage is so high is because you hold them sideways. Anyways, you can do your best tracer impersonation, or the alt fire throws away one of your oozes, and then you can transform the remaining Uzi into an assault rifle to deal with enemies further down range. The boomer is your super shotgun, your double-barreled wonder that fires 2 shotgun shells at the same time. The alt fire is a grenade launcher. I don't know, I think this one shines more around the mid-game and then falls off once it stops one-shotting bigger enemies. Nonetheless, it's always fun to vaporize some clown just cuz. The twin cindery is a dual minigun that can transform into a dual flamethrower. Not everything needs to be complicated. The rocket launcher launches rockets. But this monstrosity allows you to load up to 4 rockets into the chamber before firing, just in case you were worried that there would be any evidence left over, like any at all. The plasma rifle shoots pink balls that do mean damage. More often though, you're going to lock onto your surrounding enemies with the alt fire and just channel beams until they complete, and then it turns everything into a slushy. I totally forgot this, but you can upgrade your alt fire to catch projectiles and throw them back, a la Ion from Titanfall 2. The Telefragger is your humble sniper rifle and railgun combined. Hold down fire while unscoped, and you will charge it up into a railgun. A nice touch is that firing the railgun at full power will also throw you back from the kick. The tele part of the name is that you can hold down fire on a human-sized enemy while scoped in, and then teleport to their exact location, causing them to explode from the sudden appearance of mass inside them. Cool stuff. Finally, the ion cannon is the room clearer of this game. This gun is basically just a laser pointer for an outer space satellite to target a point and beam down like a kid using a magnifying glass to torture ants. The alt fire targets a marked location that will be, well, if there was anything in the room, there won't be afterwards. Oh, one more thing. You have a missile arm that can be activated on cooldown. This thing will target an absurd number of enemies before napalming the scene. So yeah, this all fits in your pockets. You'll find yourself cycling constantly, trying to find the right weapon for the job, managing cooldowns and reloads and adjusting for different ranges. Between this and the speed at which you move, there aren't really any breaks. This is just a song with 18 choruses and the occasional beat drop. Oh geez. Did I mention that you become Chainsaw Man in the last chapter? Yeah, so the last thing in the game you get is that you sprout chainsaws from your arms. So there. On top of all this, there is a bit of customization involved, and you can upgrade your cybernetic augments. Want to triple jump? Sure. Want to halve the cooldown of your micro missiles? Sure. Want to reduce the dash cooldown? Go for it. Just as long as you've got cash. Most of these are pretty interesting, though I will say that pretty much everyone is going to take the mod that gives you health back when you kill an enemy with your chainsaw leg. And I think the devs know this because they always give the player a herd of fodder enemies to gobble up right before the big arena moments. Me, personally, I went for a second chainsaw leg. Because, you know, that's 4 chainsaws. Now, at the end of the day, you're going to be doing a lot of voluntary slaughter. And I think a lot of boomer shooters kind of lean on this single note, like the drop D string in a Slipknot track. Now, there's nothing wrong with Drop D, but an awesome world setting and level design go a long way to tie some sort of purpose to the slaughter. Turbo Overkill does follow the boomer shooter formula pretty closely. Progress, get stuck at red door, find red key to open red door, progress to room, and kill everything inside. As I mentioned before, there's also a fair amount of platforming to help you get around between wall running and grappling hooks, but the platforming tends to end before it really becomes a chore. There is a good balance here within the levels, and there is more than enough enemy variety to keep it interesting. Even the finding of keys in most levels is set up so that you don't have to backtrack. So even though the formula hasn't really changed, it kind of has. You know those levels where you get to a fork and you're told that there are 3 buttons in 3 different locations and you need to press all of them? And you go to the first one and man, it's a slog. And then the game is like, okay, Johnny, only 2 more to go now. Well, yeah, that happened a few times, but they are often weighted so that one is much harder than the other 2. So you actually walk away feeling pretty good, like the game let you off the hook rather than giving you the full Diablo 4 treatment. All this to say the level design is excellent and it makes great use of verticality. I know I started with how I'm over the cyberpunk aesthetic, but Turbo Overkill changes settings and the level dynamics as fast as the dual Uzis fire, and tie it all together with these awesome animations at the end or start of each level. The skyline of Paradise is actually somewhere I want to go. The TerraTech headquarters are like something out of American McGee's Alice, and yes, there's a damn train level. Can we just take a moment here? You actually jump from car to car on a highway chase scene, fighting enemies, and none of this is scripted. You get to do all of it. How is it that only indie and AA devs can figure out how to do this stuff and actually make it fun? Let's not forget that you will also drive a hover car that is set up with chain guns and missile launcher like you're playing G-Police on PlayStation 1. A motorbike level where you have to run away from the Eye of Sauron. Or how about a mech level? Remember mech levels? And yeah, I know that these are usually bad in most games, but here it's great. Perhaps now is a good time to talk about the graphics. Looking at the gun models, it's kind of glorious, but when you look beyond the guns, you are instantly transported back to 2001. I think the devs did an awesome job of putting it all together into a world that looks amazing, but this is going to be a hang-up for some. Whether it's a limitation of the devs or an artistic choice, a lot of the world, especially the enemies, are low poly and low res. And look, there is an upside to this. This will definitely run on your PC. And it will run well. On top of that, some of the spectacle being represented here makes me wonder if it could stay above 5 frames if it was running in modern standards. Anyways, some people are going to hate it, some will love it, but I think Turbo Overkill looks just about as good as it could within the set limitations. Also, can we have these explosions in AAA games? Like, I can't stop looking at them, they're so beautiful. Turbo Overkill does a lot of things right, but we need to talk about the street cleaners that are set up as Johnny's antagonists. You have Jazz, Ripper, and More. Jazz is an Australian. He's cool, he gets a pass. Ripper is actually responsible for Johnny's missing leg, and More seems to be the leader of the pack. I look at these characters in game and I just can't fathom taking them seriously. Like, Ripper is okay, but the other two, I feel like I'm at a circus. How am I supposed to take these jokers seriously? Why does Jazz look like a chibi character? And why does Moore's mechanical arm look like something I drew in the 8th grade? Boss and villains in video games are kind of my thing. I love a good villain, and generally villains have all the cool stuff, but I'm kind of disappointed in these 3 outside of their voices. More though, you're going to be sick of More by the time the game is over. I think I know what they were going for. They wanted More to be this foil that kind of harasses you as you go, so you're nice and bitter by the time you get to the final showdown. The problem is that the final showdown, in quotation marks, happens so many times and it's so drawn out that it starts to feel like a budget issue by the end. So you fight him once in an arena and you basically have to beat him in 3 rounds. Things don't pan out for you after that and More gets away. For the rest of the game, More will constantly turn up and taunt you, and spawn clones of himself in just about every level. I want to say that the voice actor for More did an amazing job, but it just didn't help that More didn't really have anything cohesive to say within his character that made a lot of sense. One moment he wants you to join him, the next he's belittling you for being a cyborg, It's like he's trying to be every kind of villain at once, and I sometimes wonder if they just hired a different writer each week and paid them to write a single line for Moore coming up until the game's release and then just put it all together. When you finally confront him, you find that Moore has transformed into this monstrosity, and now you have to deal with him in his new form. So you fight through 3 phases, only to find at the end of the 3rd phase, he runs away and takes another form. So in the end, he has 3 forms and 9 phases total. This isn't to say that the content is bad. I don't mind the boss fights so much, but I think it would have been better if they spaced these out as 3 different bosses fought at 3 different points in the game. I think it also doesn't help that these phases are broken up by spawning a ton of enemies to increase the difficulty. I'm okay with it sometimes, but I think it's a bit of a crutch that's getting a bit tired. I know it definitely ruined the intensity of my battle with Ripper, which could have easily been my favorite duel if it wasn't for the spawning. I guess what stung for me is that Jazz, Ripper, and Moore were set up to be these badass enemies on the same level as Johnny, but in the end they didn't have enough depth in their encounters or their visuals to really pull it off. Anyways, but a small mark on Turbo Overkill's esteemed name, the music and the gun sounds blast. Like, yeah, there is some of the synthwave affair mixed in with a bit of metal, but I will say that they put a lot of effort to stand out from the humdrum androgynous sea of synth that many games swim in. Look up the track Sunset Synthetica and tell me that this isn't like GoldenEye had a one-night stand with Andrew Hulshult. It's not Andrew Hulshult, but you get the point. There is a substantial effort given here for each level to have a track and identity that stands out from the other Cyberpunk games. I think Turbo Overkill really nailed this, and I'm grateful. It's really hard to overstate how important the music is for inducing that boomer shooter zen of mindless killing mixed with the intense concentration required to be the bullet. For the gun sounds themselves, I'm gonna look at this as more of a pass-fail thing, and the guns and the chainsaws absolutely pass. They sound amazing, and I think the only way it could be bad is if they somehow detracted from the gameplay, and they just don't do that. They're really good. Overall, Turbo Overkill is a wild ride and an amazing game that manages to keep the time-honored tradition of sawing nerds in half alive and kicking in 2023. If you are looking to just go really fast and kill a lot of cyber freaks in creative and imaginative ways, while witnessing excessive badassery, then this is probably the best shout for it. Don't let your polygon prejudice hold you back. Gun to my head, and it's the Insta-Gibber. I give Turbo Overkill a 7.5 out of 10.